Imagine a typical day in a small town where everyone knows everyone and nothing out of the ordinary ever happens until it does. On April 12th, 2016, Mekayla Bali, a shy yet bright 16-year-old from Yorkton, Saskatchewan, simply vanished. She walked out of her house, and the familiar streets she had traveled so many times swallowed her whole, leaving nothing but questions behind. Her routine steps turned into a mystery that has haunted her family and her community for years. What could cause a well-loved teenager who was beginning to find her stride to disappear without a trace? Could she have run off? Was she lured by someone she trusted? Or is there something far more sinister at play? The trail Mekayla left is scattered with hints but no answers. CCTV footage, untraceable phone activity, and supposed sightings that all led nowhere. This isn't just the story of a missing girl. It's the story of a heartache, relentless searches, and unanswered prayers. What happened to Mekayla Bali on that fateful day, and why has every attempt to bring her home only deepened the mystery? Mekayla Bali, born Mekayla Margaret Kim Niebergall on July 2, 1999, in Regina, Saskatchewan, Canada, was just 16 years old when she disappeared on April 12, 2016, from her hometown of Yorkton. 7 months before her disappearance, her last name was changed from Niebergall to Bali. Mekayla lived with her mother, Paula Marie Bali, who works as a consultant for the Ministry of Social Services in Saskatchewan, along with her 2 younger siblings, maternal grandmother and her aunt. Her maternal grandfather had passed away a month before she vanished. As for her biological father, he remains unidentified, though a man named Rick Bright was suggested as a possible father after her disappearance. Mekayla's personality was described as shy and quiet by her mother, and she enjoyed playing the violin and participating in the drama club at her high school. Her friends found her caring and attentive to their needs, and despite being bullied for her acne, Mekayla's mother believed she was beginning to gain confidence just before her disappearance. She had no history of running away or engaging in risky behavior, which makes her disappearance all the more troubling. At the time of her disappearance, Mekayla was 157 centimeters tall and weighed about 56 kilograms. She had blonde hair, though her natural color was red, blue eyes, and a light complexion. Distinguishing features included acne, a small birthmark on her chin, scars on her forehead from chickenpox, and self-harm scars on her thigh. She also had protruding front teeth and occasionally wore glasses. Mekayla Bali wasn't the type to stand out in a crowd, but to those who knew her well, she was unforgettable. Shelby, one of her closest friends, recalls the first time they met on the 3rd day of grade 9. Mekayla's warmth shone through immediately. They bonded quickly and soon became inseparable, spending their lunch breaks at the smoke pit doors, a popular hangout for students. Interestingly, while many around her smoked, Mekayla didn't. Instead, she was the one you'd find engaging in conversation about music and teachers. Her friends knew her as someone who loved the violin, a quiet girl who was passionate about teaching or becoming a vet, thanks to her deep love for animals. Mekayla was a fan of the Hunger Games, way before it became a worldwide sensation, and she enjoyed playing fantasy games like League of Legends. Her love for nature shone through her photography, often submitting her wildlife and landscape shots to local TV stations for weather segments. One particularly endearing memory that stands out is how she loved playing Man Tracker, a high-energy game of hide-and-seek inspired by a reality show with her younger siblings. These playful moments captured her nurturing side, a side Shelby often saw, especially when Mekayla talked about her siblings or Angel, her beloved Poolie dog. But there was also a more reserved side to Mekayla. She wasn't the loudest in the group. Instead, she listened. She'd sit back, absorbing everyone's stories, only chiming in when she had something meaningful to add. Does that sound familiar to anyone you know? That quiet observer who doesn't miss a detail? Of course, like any teenager, Mekayla had her share of crushes and a few relationships. Shelby remembers Mekayla chatting about boys and the occasional party, but it never seemed out of the ordinary. However, what did stand out was her connection with people online. Mekayla had been in touch with at least 4 people through various online platforms. Shelby, like any protective friend, had concerns. Messaging strangers on the internet didn't sit well with her, but Mekayla did, in her own way, followed her instincts. Have you ever had a friend who didn't quite heed your advice but followed their own path? The day before Mekayla Bali disappeared, she was just like any other teenager, laughing and chatting with her friends. She, Shelby, and Oksana had piled into a car and headed to a fast food restaurant for lunch. While they enjoyed their meal, Mekayla mentioned she might be going somewhere soon, possibly Moose Jaw or Prince Albert. Shelby and some of their classmates remembered her talking about an upcoming family vacation to Regina, maybe Saskatchewan. The specifics were too hazy. But one name stood out to Shelby, Josh. Mekayla mentioned him that day, but when Shelby tried to dig deeper, she didn't get much of a response, and it wasn't just Josh. Amy Liang, another friend, recalled Mekayla mentioning a man named Christopher, someone she said was coming to meet her in Saskatchewan. In those final days, Mekayla talked a lot about leaving town, going on vacation. Her friends didn't think much of it. They all dreamed about escaping to bigger cities like Saskatoon or Regina, where life seemed more exciting and shopping options extended beyond what they jokingly called old lady stores. So when Mekayla mentioned plans, Shelby didn't take her seriously. It was just another teenage daydream, right? But after lunch, something shifted. Mekayla returned to school for Christian ethics class, and her teacher later told police that she seemed upset during class. Was this connected to the conversations she had been having? What could have caused that sudden change in her mood? Later that day, by 4:35 p.m., Mekayla texted Oksana asking for a ride to the bank the next day, saying it was really important. What could have been so urgent? She called TD Bank 3 times between 5:30 and 6 p.m., checking her account balance and transferring $25. Could this financial activity hold any clues? Between 8:50 and 9:30 p.m., she texted Shelby, Amy, and her ex-boyfriend. Her message to Amy was particularly concerning. She said she needed help, but didn't respond when asked why. To Shelby, she talked about a boy, feeling bad for someone and crying. Her ex-boyfriend recalled that she seemed unhappy, mentioning she might head to Regina for a few days. These texts, retrieved through cell phone tower data and provided by friends, paint a picture of a girl wrestling with something troubling. But what was it? Why was she so determined to leave town? And who were the people she mentioned in those final messages? Josh, and most of all, a Christopher. Do they hold the key to this mystery? At 6:41 a.m. on April 12, 2016, Mekayla Bali sent her first text of the day to her friend Oksana, asking for a ride to the bank. Oksana declined, explaining that the bank wouldn't open until later. That decision, innocent as it was, haunted her afterwards. Mekayla had mentioned to Oksana not long before that she believed that she had around $5,000 in her account. However, bank records would later reveal that this wasn't true. Where did that idea come from? And why was getting to the bank so critical that morning? Mekayla's grandmother, Margaret Niebergall, dropped her off at school between 8:10 and 8:20 a.m. The school's Wi-Fi showed that Mekayla logged in at 8:08 a.m., but by 8:21 a.m., she had already placed a binder in her locker and left the school through a back entrance just 5 minutes later at 8:26 a.m. What could have caused her to leave school so soon after arriving? From this point on, Mekayla's movements are captured on several surveillance cameras throughout the town, creating a detailed but still mysterious timeline of her final hours. The first camera spotted her at the Super C convenience store, walking toward the railroad tracks. By 8:51 a.m., she was at a TD Bank, speaking on her phone while she waited for the bank to open. When the doors finally opened at 8:55 a.m., she approached the teller and withdrew $55, hardly the large sum she had mentioned to Oksana. Interestingly, none of the phone calls Mekayla made that day appeared on her teller's phone records, indicating she may have been using apps to communicate. This delay in accessing her communication records left investigators with more questions than answers. What was she discussing on those calls, and who was at the other end of the line? After leaving the bank, Mekayla walked to Terry's Pawn and Bargain at 9 a.m., where she asked the owner, Terry Hedden, to assess a silver ring, or possibly two rings. Hedden told police that the value was too low to make an offer, but Mekayla didn't seem bothered by the rejection. She left the store without any sign of distress and continued on her way. Surveillance footage next captured her at a nearby home hardware store, walking purposely towards Tim Hortons Wendy's restaurant. Mekayla bought a hot drink with cash and sat in a booth near the back, facing away from the entrance. She spent the next 13 minutes using her phone, occasionally looking over her shoulder at the doors behind her. Was she expecting someone? Her behavior grew even more peculiar as she appeared to disassemble and reassemble her phone at one point before using it again. Then, at 9:23 a.m., Mekayla abruptly left the restaurant through one door, only to re-enter through another. She walked north, out of view of the home hardware camera, only to reappear again at 9:42 a.m. from behind the giant Tiger store. Why did she leave and come back? Was she looking for someone? At 9:49 a.m., she walked back into Tim Hortons, this time sitting closer to the window and facing the door. Again, she was on the phone. Although none of her calls were logged on the phone company's records, over the next 10 minutes, Mekayla seemed to be waiting, either sending messages or browsing on her phone, while occasionally glancing out the window. At 10:03 a.m., she put on her headphones, and 9 minutes later, she sent a text message to her friend Shelby. "Hey, I need help." But when Shelby asked for more details, Mekayla simply replied, "Never mind, I figured it out." What had she needed help with, and why did she suddenly dismiss it? Mekayla left the restaurant at one point, only to return less than 2 minutes later and resume her seat at the same booth. During one of her many phone calls, she glanced around the room, possibly searching for someone. She approached an older woman sitting nearby and asked for help renting a hotel room. The woman later told police that Mekayla hadn't clarified whether she needed money or just someone old enough to rent the room. When the woman declined to help, Mekayla returned to her seat and made yet another call. What was driving her to secure a hotel room? Did she have plans to meet someone there? By 11:35 a.m., Mekayla sent another text to Shelby, this time more casual. "I'll see you at lunch," it said, but she never made it to lunch. At 11:59 a.m., she was back at her high school, Sacred Heart, where she told two students, Allie Clarkson and Wannick Buckle, that she was planning to take a bus for a vacation to Regina. One of the students later mentioned to police that Mekayla may have had two phones with her at the time, adding another layer of intrigue to the situation. Why two phones? 3 minutes later, a surveillance camera over the school's front door captured Mekayla leaving the building. She walked out of view as she rounded a corner away from the entrance. That brief footage is the last confirmed sighting of Mekayla Bali. Despite the detailed timeline of her movements, the most critical questions remained unanswered. Who was she meeting that day? What was she planning? And why? In a world so closely monitored by cameras and technology, had there been no trace of her since? By 3:40 p.m. on April 12, 2016, Mekayla's grandmother waited patiently at the school parking lot, expecting her granddaughter to exit as usual. But Mekayla never appeared. As the minutes passed, it became clear something was wrong. By 4 p.m., Mekayla missed her violin rehearsal and alarm bells started ringing. At that point, her mother, Paula, reported to the police just before 8 p.m. What could have happened in those crucial hours? The next morning at 6:51 a.m., Mekayla's cell phone was turned off, a final eerie sign that something was terribly wrong. According to police, none of her social media accounts have been accessed since that day. One possible exception occurred 3 months later when a Snapchat message sent to her by a friend was marked as opened. However, it's unclear whether Mekayla or someone else accessed the account. Financial records revealed no activity on her bank account since her disappearance, and Mekayla didn't have a passport, ruling out the possibility of international travel. Could she still be in Canada? Where could she have gone without leaving a digital trace? Sergeant Donna Zwasilak from the Historical Case Unit emphasized the importance of any missing details from that day. The fact that Mekayla approached a woman for help renting a hotel room that remained under wraps until now. Sergeant Zwasilak explained that the RCMP is eager to hear from anyone else Mekayla may have approached that day. The police aren't looking to place blame. They simply want to fill in the missing pieces. Could one conversation hold the key to understanding what happened to Mekayla? Could that small piece of the puzzle finally help resolve this haunting mystery? Over the years, the search for Mekayla Bali has been fraught with false leads and glimmers of hope that never materialized. Police and her family have received hundreds of tips regarding her possible whereabouts, including numerous sightings reported across Canada. On October 9, 2016, one of the more promising tips placed Mekayla in Vancouver. Her mother, Paula, immediately traveled to the city, setting up a poster campaign in an effort to locate her daughter. Despite the outreach, no solid evidence emerged. In 2017, the police service of the Tsuut'ina Nation reported another possible sighting. They believed Mekayla had attended an event in January at the Grey Eagle Entertainment Center. However, much like the Vancouver lead, this tip didn't bring Mekayla any closer to being found. The years rolled on, and on August 8, 2019, Paula Bali received a call from a man claiming he had seen her daughter in Edmonton. Once again, Paula considered heading out to investigate for herself. These calls brought moments of hope, but the reality continued to be elusive. One particularly compelling tip in January of 2020 reported seeing Mekayla panhandling, but local police were able to confirm that the person in question was not her. Parallel to these efforts, the Bali family organized private fundraising initiatives to support their search. Initially, the family was able to offer Canadian $25,000, reward for any information leading to Mekayla's safe return. On July 31, 2017, the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children joined in the search and sharing information about the then 18-year-old Mekayla across their networks. Support continued to grow, and on December 11, 2018, an anonymous donor doubled the reward, raising it to Canadian $50,000. However, in a bittersweet turn, the donor had to request their money back, and the reward was reduced to $25,000 on January 8, 2020. Despite this setback, the community didn't give up. On the 5th anniversary of Mekayla's disappearance, additional fundraising efforts raised the reward to $40,000. Then, in a remarkable show of continued support, an anonymous donor contributed $60,000 more on the 6th anniversary, bringing the total reward to an impressive $100,000. Throughout this time, the Bali family's relentless efforts have kept Mekayla's story alive in the public eye, offering hope to others facing similar struggles, while seeking answers of their own. Yet, the biggest question remains: where is Mekayla Bali? Could one of these sightings have been her, or is she still out there waiting to be found? Due to the continued interest in her disappearance, her case has been discussed extensively online on sites such as YouTube, web sleuths, and Reddit, where discussion forums dedicated to her disappearance exist. And now, here on the Odd Mystery Stories channel. Theories about her fate include her running away, committing suicide, being trafficked, and becoming the victim of an online predator, possibly using a false identity. I'm going to share some of the most popular theories. Investigators did find a second Instagram account under Mekayla's name. The account had zero activity, but the About Me section read, "Goodbye." Mekayla posted on her Snapchat profile in February 2016 with the caption, "Looking for Snapchat friends because I have none in real life. Add me. Please don't be a greasy and send me gross ass nudes. Just looking for a friend." Mekayla told friends she planned a trip to Regina, which is about 150 miles from Yorkton. There was also a gentleman named Christopher that Mekayla had planned to visit in Saskatchewan. Police searched Christopher's home, and there was no evidence that he was even in Canada at the time of her disappearance. Christopher lived in the United States in North Carolina and had a cast-iron alibi. He did, however, reveal to CBC News that Mekayla had told him about a previous suicide attempt. There was also a suggestion that Mekayla had scars from self-harm and attempted suicide. Mekayla had an estranged father who since emerged for the first time. Since Mekayla's disappearance, Mekayla never knew the man, and Mekayla's mother was somewhat guarded in what she revealed about Mekayla's father. Now, Rick Bright has put himself forward as Mekayla's biological father. He has been active in the various Saskatoon communities and has been an active voice trying to find Mekayla. The police have never confirmed a suspect in this case, but they do have what they refer to as a, quote, person of interest that they have announced as a potential suspect. This person was seen by witnesses leaving the Trail Stop restaurant with Mekayla. He was stocky, muscular, and had a fiery cross tattoo on his arm. The police questioned the man, and he explained he was merely holding the door open for Mekayla. This man remains uncharged. Two of Mekayla's classmates told police that Mekayla had oxycodone, a powerful opioid. Mekayla brought the drug to school to show friends. "We are always open and aware that there are drugs in high school," said one investigating officer. "There is a different kind of drugs and drugs getting passed around, but in Mekayla's case, we don't have enough evidence to suggest that drugs were a factor in this situation." Police Detective Kim Stewart says that to this day, she still looks for Bali, years after the case was transferred out of her unit. As the investigation into Mekayla Bali's disappearance continued, some speculated that her erratic behavior on that day might indicate that she ran away. Perhaps she had grown weary of small-town life in Yorkton, Saskatchewan, and decided to leave it all behind. There are details that could support this theory, including her cryptic social media activity. Mekayla posted messages that some found somber and reflective, perhaps even indicating she was saying goodbye. Her need for a hotel room, her visit to the bus stop, and the creation of a second Instagram account all hint at someone preparing for a significant change or even a departure. However, the possibility that Mekayla fell prey to something far darker cannot be ignored. The internet, often a place of connection, can also be a gateway for those with ill intentions. There's also a very real fear that Mekayla may have encountered an online predator who took advantage of her vulnerability. Alternatively, she could have crossed paths with someone in the real world who saw an opportunity and exploited her in a moment of isolation. Both possibilities are chilling, filling the imagination with grim scenarios that lead to devastating conclusions. Yet, the uncertainty remains. Did Mekayla leave voluntarily, seeking a fresh start, or did someone else make that decision for her with far more sinister intentions? The possibility that Mekayla Bali became a victim of human trafficking has been a haunting concern for her mother, Paula. This fear is not unfounded. According to the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, trafficking in the context of missing children is defined as a form of child abuse where a minor is exploited through commercial sex acts. Unfortunately, this crime is a growing issue in certain regions of Canada. In 2019, a government report highlighted the troubling reality of human trafficking in Saskatchewan and surrounding areas. The report pointed to the presence of oil and gas developments, which often bring in largely male, transient workforces as a key factor contributing to the problem. Cities like Winnipeg, Edmonton, Calgary, and Regina were identified as significant trafficking hubs. Yorkton, where Mekayla disappeared, lies in the middle of these locations, raising the alarming possibility that she may have been exploited by traffickers operating in the region. This grim scenario has weighed heavily on Mekayla Bali's family. Paula Bali has expressed her fears multiple times that her daughter could have fallen victim to this dark underworld. To this very day, Paula continues to post actively on Mekayla Bali's Facebook page as they continue their search. The potential involvement of trafficking remains one of the more chilling possibilities in Mekayla's case, underscoring the need for increased awareness and efforts to combat human trafficking across Canada. The story of Mekayla Bali is one of both hope and heartache, a mystery that continues to cast a long shadow over her family, friends, and the broader community. Since her disappearance in April of 2016, the search for Mekayla has become a symbol of persistence in the face of overwhelming uncertainty. Despite numerous leads, including sightings across Canada, police investigations, and private efforts, Mekayla remains missing. Her case has touched upon many troubling possibilities, whether she chose to run away, fell victim to an online predator, or became ensnared in the horrifying world of human trafficking. Through it all, Mekayla's family has never given up hope. Her mother, Paula, has tirelessly campaigned for answers, driven by a simple, unrelenting desire to bring her daughter home. Despite the passing years, the family remains steadfast, continuing to raise awareness and pursue every lead, no matter how faint. The reward for Mekayla's safe return now stands at $100,000, a testament to the community's support and the enduring hope for closure. But beyond the questions and theories lies the heart of this story, a mother's love, a community's resilience, and the nation's desire for justice. Whether Mekayla's story ends in a miraculous reunion or with the resolution of painful truths, what remains clear is the need for answers. The world may continue moving forward, but for those who loved Mekayla, the time has stood still since that fateful day. They deserve to know what happened, and until they do, the search will go on. In the end, this story is more about than just a missing girl. It's about the countless others who have disappeared under similar circumstances and the ongoing efforts to protect the vulnerable from the darker side of society. Mekayla Bali's disappearance is a reminder that the work to prevent such tragedies must never stop, and that hope, even in the darkest of times, can keep the search alive. Thanks once again for watching my video. My name is Vince. Would you please consider supporting my channel by either buying me a cup of coffee at the Buy Me a Cup of Coffee link below, or even treating yourself to some merchandise at my online shop. I truly appreciate your support. If you enjoyed this story, you might also enjoy the story of the mystery of Branson Perry's disappearance. You will find a link to that story in the upper right corner of your screen. Thank you.